for James. He's got it. Coming to the end of the third quarter. LeBron James, a shot at history. LeBron stands alone. The NBA's all-time scoring record now belongs to LeBron James.
LeBron riding himself front and centre into the record books last night. Aged 38, now in his 20th season, LeBron has become the NBA's all-time leading scorer. He overtakes Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was present to witness the changing of the guard. We are talking about 38,387 points. Thank you very much. Brian Anderson there on TNT calling the play. Cue the game being stopped, all the pageantry you can handle, his family coming onto the court, a full-on celebration. Post-game, LeBron spoke to the media.
I write the man in the arena on my shoe every single night from Theodore Roosevelt. And tonight I actually felt like I was like sitting on top of the arena tonight when that shot went in and the roar from the crowd. I'm not sure if I would be able to feel that feeling again. I probably can count on my hands how many times I've cried in 20 years, either in happiness or defeat. You know, that moment was one of them when I kind of teared up a little bit. It was I can't believe what's going on, tears.
Very happy to bring in Vinson Cunningham of The New Yorker. Vinson, you're very welcome to the show. Nice to speak to you.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
You were writing about this just last week for The New Yorker, and you made the point that LeBron's pursuit of this scoring record, this incredible record deemed almost unbreakable for decades at this stage, the pursuit of something so out of reach almost lacked any suspense, that the basketball fraternity has had 3, 4, 5 years to almost digest the fact in advance that he was going to break it.
Yeah, it's been oddly unsuspenseful. I was reading something by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar today. He has a Substack newsletter that he's always updating. So he was offering some thoughts, and he reminded me, I had forgotten that like 3 years ago, he had mentioned in his writing, like, yeah, I mean, LeBron scores 2,000 points a year. So at this rate, unless something catastrophic happens, it's going to happen. And I think that supposition has been the basis of all of our talk about him for a while. So it's strange, this sort of anticlimax that has been sort of watching his inch up to this record.
And we played the commentary there, the lack of suspense notwithstanding. When the moment came, the rafters were lifted. It did feel like an iconic moment and an iconic cheer.
Absolutely. And the NBA does this kind of stuff well. They make sure that, you know, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is there every time LeBron even touches the ball, whether he makes it or doesn't make it, you know, the cameras are cutting back to Kareem. Denzel Washington was there. Jay-Z was there. Like, it was just like this star-studded thing. It was more spectacle than it was competition almost, such that everybody was kind of primed to really lay it on pretty thick once he won. And of course, you know, the Lakers go on to lose this game, and they're in the middle of a sort of oddly competitive game with a not so great team, but everything stops, you know, like they're a couple of seconds away from the end of the third quarter, and it kind of doesn't matter. Everybody has realized that this is a sort of context independent feat. So it was really great. I stayed up. I wouldn't have watched that game otherwise, and I stayed up to watch it. So yeah. Mission accomplished for the NBA.
This record of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's is long-standing, 1984. This was perceived for certainly a period of time as pretty much unbreakable. Has Kareem Abdul-Jabbar been happy to see his record broken by LeBron and supportive, or has he been bristling quietly?
I think there has been the idea that he's been bristling. Kareem has been a sort of critic, not in the always negative sense, but he has taken it upon himself to really analyze a lot of LeBron's doings. They had a big... Kareem at least kind of came out and really criticized him pretty tough during the early part of the pandemic, because LeBron was voicing his skepticisms about vaccine mandates. And even though LeBron took the vaccine, whatever, he was sort of stirring the pot a little bit, and Kareem took him to task for that. And since then, I think the relationship between them has been icy to non-existent. But Kareem today, again, he put out this post on his Substack and he said, listen, I'm thrilled. It's more like watching someone win and being glad that I won too. I've known it was going to happen for a long time. And it's great that we have a game that can renew itself by creating a new greatest scorer. So, yeah. And I believe him. I think Kareem is, he's famously not the most buddy kind of person, but I think he is a person with a historical mindset. Like he can zoom back several degrees and see things for what they are with some perspective. So I buy that.
And I didn't see the footage, but I've seen the photo of Kareem. It's a perfect image for what happened last night. It was Kareem in the crowd handing the basketball to LeBron.
Yeah. It was really interesting because, he's there with this really nice leather jacket on, Kareem is. And there have been some images that have been going around Twitter, I'm sure people have seen it, of when Kareem, this very youthful-looking Kareem, passes Wilt Chamberlain's record. Wilt was there wearing a gold chain and a black tank top. It's a very Wilt outfit. So there is this tradition of passing on that torch. So Kareem looked happy. He was smiling in the stands, and you could tell as the last shot came, you could see him getting ready because, of course, there had been some choreography. So we're going to bring you up and honor you and ceremonially kind of pass the torch. So really cool moment.
I saw a quote from LeBron last year where he was increasingly, as you might imagine, being asked about the scoring record. And he said, the scoring record was never, ever even a thought in my head when I was starting out because I've always been a pass the ball first guy. And that is borne out by the fact he is fourth in the all-time assists category as well. I mean, which is just phenomenal. So he has a creative aspect to his play in a very big way. So explain to me how a guy can be so good at both.
Well, it's totally true, and I do believe that if LeBron James had stopped growing when he was, let's say, 6'4", and he had plausibly been able to play point guard his whole career as his primary duty, he probably would be at the top of that assist list. He's an incredible passer. He sees the game like no one else. If you think back to 2015, when they lost, the Cavs did to the Golden State Warriors, but some of those games are some of the smartest basketball games anybody's ever played. Same goes for 2018, also when they lose. He's this kind of this maestro and understands where everybody is all the time, even in these sort of tragic efforts that he sometimes had in the finals. But he has always been the person that's been called to score the most on his teams. It's just as a function of being 6'9", being unstoppable. Nobody has ever been able to stop him going to the rim. It's been mostly his decision as to whether he wants to get banged up and how much he needs to get banged up during the course of the game. But the fact is, he's been the most durable. By the way, he's always led his team in scoring, often led them in assists, but he's also just missed fewer games than anybody in NBA history. He kind of famously has spent millions of dollars per year just tending to himself and keeping himself in shape. And if you are as good as him and you play as much as he does without catastrophic injury, that stuff adds up. And if you look at it, I'm sure so many of these scores are just drives to the basket, righty layup, lefty layup, dunk, things that look routine because LeBron James is doing it because he's so great. But they've added up. So it's pretty remarkable.
Vinson, unfortunately, as human beings, we are obsessed with hierarchies at every level. And so instead of just enjoying LeBron and celebrating it for what it is, pretty quickly, we have to segue into who's the greatest of all time. And that is just the way we're programmed, unfortunately. And sports journalists are more guilty of it maybe than any cohort in society. So for a long time in the argument, if you were a Jordan person, your retort to any argument was 6 titles. 6 titles, 6 titles, 6 titles. To what extent does this elevate LeBron in the argument?
To me, it is very persuasive. I hate this tendency too, that it is a sickness that basketball shares with hip hop. Everybody's like, who's the best of all time? Top 5, give me your top. It's an irritating conversation.
We will get to your top 5 in hip hop before the end of this chat.
Oh man, I don't know. But I think it's really big deal because what it speaks to is excellence over an incredible amount of time. You know, Jordan famously quit for 2 years in the middle of his career to go play baseball, and then he left kind of at the height of his powers after the 98 finals. And when he comes back as a member of the Washington Wizards, he's not the Michael Jordan that we think of. LeBron has so far endured no such indignity, right? He's been the same guy every single year. And with what we just talked about, right? The fact that he's done this and not been the shoot first sort of mercenary that Jordan was, right? He like played like Magic Johnson for all these years and still somehow reached this incredible number. I don't see how it's not part of the argument, or it doesn't at least inflect the argument in a new way.
Yes. And it was very interesting. So, I mean, the television coverage of basketball is just world class. It is a joy to watch. So there's amazing aspects to last night. So you have LeBron in conversation with Shaquille O'Neal, who's in studio, and I'll just play the interaction here for anybody who didn't hear it. So it's Shaq really saying, come on, admit you're the greatest, go. And so we'll just have a listen.
I said at the beginning of the show, I wish that I would have had this moment, the chance to pass up Kareem. You now have passed up Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I know what my attitude would have been. Does this now make you the greatest player of all time? Or are you now the GOAT?
I'm gonna let everybody else, decide who that is, or just talk about it. But it's great barbershop talk.
I want to hear you say it, Bron.
Listen, big fella.
I want to hear you say it, Bron.
Me personally,
say it with your chest, Bron.
I'm gonna take myself against anybody that's ever played this game. But everyone's gonna have their favorite. Everyone's gonna, decide who their favorite is. But I know what I've brought to the table. I know what I bring to the table every single night, and what I can do out on this floor. So. I always feel like I'm the best to ever play this game, but, there's so many other great ones, and I'm happy to just be a part of their journey.
So that's LeBron in conversation with Shaq, and we're talking to Vinson Cunningham here of The New Yorker. If I think of Cristiano Ronaldo in a different sphere, Vincent, for him to be regarded as the greatest of his generation and beyond is an obsession. It is vitally important to him, and he would never pass up the opportunity to say he's the greatest. How important is it to LeBron?
I think that it is quite important to him in he's, and I say this with no disrespect, he's cooler than Ronaldo is. Like, he's cool. Cristiano has he can't hide it because of the way that he's wired. Like, I can guarantee you that no matter how bad it gets for LeBron, he's never going to end up on TV with Piers Morgan, right? Like, these are different kinds of dudes. But I think it matters to him, and he's been making this case for himself with varying degrees of subtlety ever since really he won the 2016 final against the Golden State Warriors, when he came back from 3 games to 1 down, which had never been done in the history of the league. To win a finals in that way, really just decided to put his whole team on his back and change the course of a series that all of us thought he would lose to the Warriors, who had been 73-9, amazing in the regular season. So he did that, which is something that no one has ever done, and which, let's face it, Jordan was always the favorite when he got into the finals because his teams were great. He had the best coach. He had the best number 2 guy. He was always a favorite. And LeBron does this thing that no one thought he could do. And ever since then, I think he's been very steadily, very in the same way he just did, right? Telling you what his opinion is, but you can have yours. But he's been saying, look, I think when this is all said and done, you're going to look at me as the best. Mm-hmm. And I do think that longevity has been part of his, he's realized that he's never going to be like, I went undefeated in the finals. I'm never going to be able to say I won 6 and I was 6 for 6 in the finals. So his appeal has always had to rest, I think, and I think he knew this because he's so smart. His game is going to be the long game.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason he's like, I'm going to play until my son plays. He's going to have this sort of Bunyan-esque feat of, I'm going to play for as long as what Tom Brady basically just did in American football, right? Like, I'll play the longest and I'll put up some numbers that'll be like almost impossible to catch up to. And that's going to be my route. And I think he has thought about it a lot.
It is the most extraordinary career when you consider his pedigree as a high school player and the hype and the fact that Sports Illustrated put him on the cover age 17 with The Chosen One. as the headline. To actually exceed expectations speaks of a certain strength of character. And again, this is the question. From afar, every time I seem to come across LeBron, whether it's his altruistic work or whether it's a very impressive damn cameo in Trainwreck, he does seem like an impressive person, genuinely, because sometimes there's the halo effect, and if someone's good at a sport, then the merest impressive feat off the court is amplified overly. But he does seem to be a genuinely impressive person.
He really does. First of all, yeah. I mean, if you step in the ring with Judd Apatow and Amy Schumer, you got to be able to hold your own. That's the first thing. But also, yeah, he has known that the lights have been on him since he was 17 years old and even before, and he's handled every step with total poise and grace. And we have enough counterexamples out there, right? We have so many examples of people who have been sort of put on that ladder by the media and have kind of tumbled down. He's always seemed to be a good guy. He's always cared about people not like himself, right? I mean, not as fortunate as himself, not as talented as himself, all of that, in terms of his work with kids, in terms of his political stances, all these kinds of things. He's tried to make good on the responsibility that comes with this much power, I guess you could say. And also, just like being this good when everybody thinks you're going to be this good is hard. I think the people think of the NBA as a sort of genetic lottery. And on some level, right, like you can only be so tall, you can only jump so high, whatever, right? There are natural limits on who we are as people. But when everybody is that good, and when you see NBA games up close, you realize that everybody is faster than you've ever seen. Everybody jumps higher than you ever, like it's a whole congregation of amazing people. Then these little things about who does work the hardest and who takes their craft the serious and who's, studied the most, it does matter. And to be this good for this long, you also just have to have an incredible work ethic. So it's not just, he's a super freak who also happens to be humble about it. It's like, no, he's really taken on the challenge of staying this good for this long and understood it almost as a kind of moral duty, right? It's like, if you can be the best, why not be it? And he's made good on everything that he's been given. Yeah,
really interesting. Just as we sign off, this is a quick question, and this is more of a you can fill us in. I just came across this clip on Twitter. You can explain, is there a beef here between Shaq and Kareem, or what, a misunderstanding of some kind or whatever? Because I'll just play it to you. There's a moment in the broadcast where they're both at pains to say, I've got no beef with you, we're friends. Just have a listen.
Hey, I want to tell Shaq, I asked you specifically this evening because you felt that I was shaming you or ignoring you, and that would never be the case. And you showed him what you were all about, the way you crushed all the centers in the league for a couple of years there. So I'm on your side, Shaq. Don't ever let anybody tell you anything different.
And listen, you not speaking to me was the best thing that happened to my career because all I wanted to do was impress you, sir. So I will talk to you soon, inshallah, and I love you very much. And I will never, ever have beef with the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You ain't got to worry about that.
Best back at you. I love you, too. And
all right, brother.
I want you guys to keep on impressing the whole world with our game. It's a wonderful game.
All right. Yep. I'll talk to you soon, Cap.
No, you hang up. So what's the issue?
Shaq has mentioned several times during his career when he wrote a biography and in interviews that have sort of spanned his whole career, he has mentioned several times that he was a Laker and all he wanted to do was impress Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Kareem was not taking him under his wing. He didn't really call, he didn't reach out to him, he didn't talk to him. And famously, it was Bill Russell was always the guy who was better at this, right? Bill Russell, he loved Kobe Bryant. He would always be doing interviews with the next generation of players, sort of giving them their flowers, so to speak, and sort of singing their praises and telling them to like sort of take this baton forward into the future, right? Kareem was never like that because Kareem, he's not like that. And Shaq took offense at that and has voiced it over the years. And so I think Kareem took this as an opportunity to sort of clear the air on that, which good for him.
Okay, interesting. Vincent, that was so interesting. Sadly, we don't have time for your top 5 hip hop. That will have to happen on another day.
But I appreciate it.
It was a pleasure having you on. Thank you for the time, Vincent. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Have a good one.
Vinson Cunningham there of The New Yorker.